and you are very welcome to this special episode of Beneath the Skin, the show about the history of everything told through the history of tattooing. We are today not necessarily talking about history, but we're talking about history in the making, because what is history? Only the future and present in the past. So I am your host, Thomas O'Mahony. Matt is unfortunately still absconded away in Puerto Rico, so he's not joining us. He's enjoying being surrounded by iguanas on his honeymoon. But instead, I am joined by three fantastic guests. First is a return from our statistics fan favourite, Peter Oakmond Madsen. Peter, say hello.
Hello there.
And Peter, would you like to introduce your two friends which you have kindly provided to the show?
Yes, I would love to do that. So I've managed to drag along one of my old colleagues, Benny, who has Meat Shop Tattoo, which is my old studio in Barcelona, and my good friend Sylvain Lienkme, who is, he has Ad Inc. in Geneva, where I have guested a few times, and he's guested with me back when I was in Copenhagen, and we've done some weird holidays together and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves as well?
All right. Hi, it's Benny from Barcelona. I took over Peter's shop here, Meat Shop Tattoo in Barcelona in the city center. It's a large shop. It's very, very big, and we do both custom walk and it's a street shop, so we do plenty of walk-ins all day long, basically.
And Sylvain?
Yeah, hi, it's Sylvain. I opened my shop called Ad Inc. Tattoo in Geneva in 2006. And now my shop is running half private, so I'm open for reception 2 days a week. And I do, I usually work on appointment, and whenever it's possible, when I can manage it, I take walk-ins as well.
Fantastic. So one thing that is very common among tattooists and tattoo enthusiasts is there's so much curiosity about, running a shop, what it's like owning a shop. And I think the business has fundamentally changed over the past couple of years. So this episode is going to be focused on, what is it like running a shop, owning a shop in 2023. But first of all, I want to go around to each of you and talk about your journey going from, being a young apprentice tattooist, dreaming of one day opening a shop, to embracing the reality of having to buy toilet paper, every 2 or 3 days. So Peter, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I started my career in a very haphazard way. I had I would call it a half-assed apprenticeship, and was kicked into the world of tattooing by basically a guy who used to be a tattoo artist who taught me the ropes, and then, kicked me into the world and told me to go tattoo my friends. Terrifying way of doing it. I cannot recommend it to anyone. Within a year, I opened a studio with a friend in Copenhagen. That grew into a much bigger tattoo studio in Copenhagen, and then I absconded to Barcelona. The tattoo studio back then was walk-in, both in Copenhagen and also the Barcelona studio, which I only half worked in myself. It's a very large studio in central Barcelona. You'll hear more about that in a moment from Benny. And I started doing only private clients in my private studio up in the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains. My career is heavily influenced by the fact that I'm a terribly nerdy person. We've done a previous episode with Thomas on Viking tattoos and shit like that. And so I never handle walk-ins and stuff like that. I know we're going to be talking a lot about the day-to-day life of tattooing. I do have a very, very busy studio nowadays. I'm in the northeast corner of England, in a small place called Whitley Bay that no one's ever been to, and if they say they have, they're lying, because no one goes here. Where I have, it's supposed to be a small private studio, but it's turned into this miasma of humans with a lot of skills. So I have a book editor and 2 social media experts and another tattoo artist working with me as my assistant, and things tend to go a little bit out of hand whenever I start anything. So yeah, I'm in this hurricane of creativity, and it's wonderful. But there's never a quiet day, and lots of toilet paper just get consumed for various reasons.
Specifically by you, or just people in general?
People crying. No, just large people poop a lot, I guess.
I mean, as someone who also had a very large beard up until relatively recently, I understand the struggle of having to, wipe your face down after every meal. Benny, what about yourself?
So my journey, I apprenticed in a shop which really didn't. It was a disaster basically, but I kept on insisting on being a tattooer and worked in various shops, some better than others. And I eventually started working at Meat Shop Tattoo with Peter. And after a couple of years working at the shop, he moved to Whitley Bay and asked if I wanted to take over, which I was one of those kind of tattooers that said I never want to have a shop. I never want to have this responsibility. I never want to do this kind of a stuff. But the shop is so nice and it seemed like a great opportunity. So I took on the idea of running a shop. It's been about 3 years now. I myself still do walk-ins pretty much every day. We open 7 days a week. It's a very large shop. It's 2 floors. Now we've added a third floor to it. We're like 15, 16 tattooers, 3 shop managers, 7 days a week. So it's been more like a factory mode, if you want to call it, production. But at the same time, we cater to small designs and custom work and bodysuits and sleeves and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm an owner who didn't want to be an owner. That's basically me.
And Sylvain?
Oh, well, when I started my apprenticeship, it was in 2001. But I did my first tattoos in 99. And I was geeking a lot about tattoos in general. Did my apprenticeship for basically a person with which it didn't happen very well in the end. But anyway, I didn't have a lot of connection. At one point, I needed to get away of that kind of relation, and ended up opening a little shop in Geneva. So that was in 2006. I've always been very geeky, but about tattoos. So I kind of knew what people were talking about, and they were seeing projects that they liked. Back in the day, it was mostly from magazines. And yeah, I mean, during the years, my shop became a lot more private than it was in the beginning. I ended up working alone, where I could express myself with a more personal style. I still love to please everyone who comes, and I know that the impulsion of a walk-in is based on the satisfaction of having the tattoo done as fast as possible. I mean, within, usually on the day, but that's not always possible, especially when I'm now working mostly on larger pieces. And well, since I'm alone tattooing in my shop, well, toilet paper is a lot easier to manage.
Your accountant is happy you're spending less money on toilet paper.
I do have a fantastic receptionist that is my assistant, and she's working for me 2 days a week when opening hours are reception days open. But the rest of the time, it's me and my clients, and it's one-on-one. So yeah, I mean, managing the I'm lost in translation here, but managing the orders and the supplies is kind of easy.
So I just want to throw it out there, and I want to let the three of you discuss it between yourselves. What are all the steps that are really important when you first decide, okay, I'm going to open a tattoo studio, and then actually opening the doors? I know, Benny, you inherited the shop from Peter, but also you can talk about that transfer process of, well, it's moving from one owner to another. Feel free to argue among yourselves.
Oh, wow. It's a good subject. It's a good question. I remember telling Benny that, because we had a lot of talks about, even before I was leaving my own studio in Barcelona, about how it was to run a studio and how it was to deal with other tattoo artists. And I think I tend to describe it as being like a cat herder, except all the cats are on mescaline. And And that is, to date, still my biggest issue. The moment you hire other tattoo artists to work with you, if you're not alone in your studio and you have other artists, there is just an almost daily fuck around that you have to deal with. Just manic, crazy shit where a tattoo artist doesn't show up and you call them and they've left the country, or they've been kidnapped. Stuff like it's just the weirdest shit always, or they're just lying. Like there's so many insane artists out there, and especially the breed that becomes tattoo artists. Holy shit. So I remember warning about that, and I have dealt with my fair share, both as a shop owner and as a guest artist, especially when I worked in New York a lot. There was some weird shit going on. That's my biggest hurdle. It always has been.
Yeah, I can confirm for sure. Managing the day-to-day of, in the case of Meat Shop right now, 15 eccentric people, each one with their own quirks and emotional needs, can be tiring, strange, but also very satisfying sometimes. I guess it's like having kids, lots of kids with ADHD. They're not your kids, but you have to be there for them.
You're being a hostage negotiator on a daily basis.
Pretty much.
I have 5 children. None of that has been as insane as dealing with tattoo artists.
I'd like to add something. As I'm mostly working alone, I'm also opening my shop to have guest artists. So, from what I understand, if you are working on a daily basis with other artists, you have this. Social human aspect to deal with, and that can be sometimes maybe challenging, but it's also very very interesting and very rich to share this passion about being totally driven into a job that we love to do every day. So I'm always happy to have guests for a certain amount of time, because I can dedicate myself to be 100% there with the time we spend together. But it's also good to get back to that sort of calm after the storm.
You're a bit of a solitary creature.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes by, it becomes something that I'm really fond of. I used to back, in the days I had one apprentice and then another, and I did also have a coworker who I was working with. But it's also nice to work on sometimes a little bit, be productive on your own. But when I hear people talking about working with tons of other artists, I kind of miss it. When I will travel again and do guest spots and share the experience of working with tons of other artists. That's super cool as well.
And Benny, I want to ask you, because the other 2 guys, I'll ask them next, but obviously with a big shop with a lot of tattoo artists and a lot of customers coming in, one of the things that I would assume that's very difficult is how to curate the atmosphere in the shop. How do you kind of, I suppose, from the decor to the music to the flash on the walls, what do you have to think about when you're managing, whether it's 3 artists in a shop or 15 like you do?
The shop the ceilings are really high. They're like 4 or 5 meters probably, and the decoration is pretty much how Peter left them. I like to describe it like as a cabinet of curiosities. The walls are full of quirky, semi-tattoo related artworks, but it doesn't look like your traditional tattoo shop that everyone can picture in their mind. So even for someone who is not connected to the tattoo world, doesn't even want to get tattooed, it's nice for them to walk around and see this space and the things on the walls. Is it African masks or bones or skulls or, I don't know, dioramas like 3D paintings and stuff like this? It sets a nice vibe. All the lights are all warm lighting, and music wise, depends who's manager on the day. It could be punk rock all day long, or it could be a mix of ethnical electronic music or modern indie music. The good thing is the managers that we have, they kind of read the vibe in the shop. So maybe if people are angry, maybe not blast too much death metal all day long and go for something happier. And because it's a big group of people, I think like the energy that is created in the shop permeates to everyone else. So there's those days where everyone comes in and everyone's angry and they have had a bad day and they're all going to be like, oh, I'm going to have a shitty day and we're all going to have a shitty day together. But most of the time, even though you only remember the bad days, it's, we're all happy and it's like a ballet of good mood and jokes and drawing, and we're happy to be pirates and tattoo all day long. And that's mainly the mood, I'd say. But you remember the shitty ones.
But like, to be honest, and you can be honest with me, have you left all the decorations up because Peter placed like some runic curse on them and you're afraid to remove them?
No, I don't think that would have happened. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I mean, we haven't changed much.
Peter, did you place runic curses on the decorations?
No, but I did place some decorations that are so fucking ginormous and heavy that taking them down would be a fucking nightmare,
Yes.
including like a Kappa buffalo skull that weighs a good 80 kilo or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember trying to hang it. That was a nightmare. I imagine taking it down would be a death trap. So
Yeah, that's
guessing it's
also
still
one of
there.
the reasons. No, and it was beautifully decorated as well. So it's a beautiful shop.
And Peter, obviously you went from Meat Shop to your current studio. What things did you do differently when you were creating your new studio? What did you learn anything from Meat Shop that you wanted to bring over to your new shop, or was there anything that you wished you could have changed with Meat Shop that you did differently?
Well, I think we should mention that when we got the Meat Shop location in Barcelona, it was a really, really weird space. It was already a tattoo shop owned by someone else, and it had been painted. All of it was like battleship gray, with bad paint job. It was really unpleasant to be in that atmosphere. So I hired a team of builders, and we renovated the entire space. Put in a massive wooden counter where we stained everything with warm tones and all these things. There's these beautiful iron pillars in the shop that we paid a guy to repaint them so they're marbled. Had the massive windows in the front. We had them done with this traditional window painting and stuff like that to give it character, because the whole place just lacked character. And it managed to take the place from being very unpleasant, really, to be a warm and welcoming and curious space. Like this whole like eclectic, slightly museumy feel to it. And I've always enjoyed being in a space where everything around me has a history and has points of interest. And I always found it to be really good for the clients when they're getting tattooed, that they have a zillion things to look at on the walls. Keep them entertained. But if you let people be entertained by staring at their phones or watch a movie or something like that, they tend to drop their fucking phone while you're trying to do straight lines. Or just like they get distracted in a weird way. It's not, to me, not always good for the atmosphere. So I try to create a living space around them, pieces of conversation, kind of. And I've definitely taken that with me. I harvested so much artwork in my years in Barcelona that I just had rolled up in piles because I never got around to frame it. And now I've framed almost all of it, and my studio is packed. And there's so much weird shit here. So I definitely brought that with me. The only thing I didn't bring with me from Barcelona was the quantity of tattoo artists, really, because it wasn't the life I wanted anymore. It's also not suitable. I mean, you couldn't run a tattoo studio with 10 tattoo artists in Whitley Bay, whereas Barcelona is very, very suited for it.
That would nearly double the population of Whitley Bay.
Probably, yes. Easily. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed what we did with the studio. It's really nice right now on the screen. I can see behind Benny. It's the same as what we built. It's a beautiful studio. So I'm
It's the only hallway that hasn't been changed. Benny is specifically sitting there so you don't get mad.
He's in his own
it's all the
little
same.
room.
If anything, I've just added on. I now collect like African tribal masks, so I've added that. But it fits in with this curiosity museum vibe that it has.
Mm-hmm. And Sylvain, obviously you work on your own, so your space is totally your own. Where do you, I suppose, where do you stop filling it with stuff that I want to look at all day, and then find that middle line of, okay, here's some interesting stuff that customers might want to look at or might find inviting?
You've not found that middle line, Sylvan.
Oh no, yeah, it's
Behind him is a giant mirror with a Baphomet goat's head and a pentagram in chains. So, you know.
Yeah, well, I haven't really given a deep thought about where to place my laptop, to be honest. So depending on how I turn it around, there's a lot of other things to look, obviously, in the shop. But I would have to say finding that middle ground took me a long time. The decoration of the shop had two major changes within the years. So when I started decorating the shop, it was just kind of an exploration, and there's been the first change that happened was there was a flood at one point many years ago, but can't remember, maybe 2012 or something like that. There was a flood in my shop, so basically I had to run around in the morning at 9 a.m. to save the furniture from the water that was pouring from the ceiling. And then it was a disastrous event. Most of my decoration was just gone. The prints that I had on the walls was finished, and but that was the occasion to repaint, and I changed the color of the walls. So that was the first big step, and the second step was after COVID, where I realized that owning a shop or owning a space is a very good occasion to display what I want to tattoo and things that I want to tattoo on people. So I started to paint lots of flash and make larger paintings and try to encourage people to see what I have to show out for myself, and displaying, stencils and back pieces and just laying them around. And that was a good occasion also for my customers. When they show up in my studio, they are literally inside of my portfolio. They can even look at my other flash, but that can be a source of inspiration. And as Peter was saying, it's also very distracting from the pain when they're just staring at 1 million designs around them. And by the time we finish a tattoo, maybe they are inspired to get another one because they just saw that little dragon on the top that's shooting lasers from the eyes or whatever. And it can be a good idea to jump from that to another one and so on.
And maybe being a bit controversial, I want to ask you each, what's one thing you love seeing in a studio and one thing that you hate seeing in a studio when you walk in? You don't have to name specific studios. Sylvan, do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, to be completely honest, I haven't seen a lot of studios over the last few years after COVID. But I would say what speaks to me when I come in a shop is I like to feel the vibe of whoever's working in it. Some sort of, if there's art from the artist or art that inspires us, it's good to have nice decoration, and that's always nice. But the art of the people who are tattooing is maybe a good idea to have on display somehow. It feels more like home, or somehow it's difficult to use the right words for that. But I would say if I come in a shop and I have the feeling that I'm in a clinic,
I guess what I like to see in a shop would be artwork, but it's handmade, unique, not just photocopies of Flash. And I'd say a mix of antiques inside, not just to make sure that everything's not IKEA furniture. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, nicely curated and selected artwork and furniture, really, and good music.
Yep, you're offending the Nordics by saying no IKEA.
Yeah. I mean, some IKEA, but not all the shop IKEA. Like a catalog kind of thing. And what I dislike, I don't know. I really like these. We call them like beach tattoo shops, where they have like pictures of really like henna tattooing kind of flash, or pictures of other people's tattoos on their walls, and maybe a Chesterfield sofa in the middle, that kind of thing. It gives me like copy paste. I've seen a million tattoo shops like this before, kind of a vibe.
So what the two, because I'm going to go to Peter in a second, because I know Peter will have loads of negative things to say, things that he does not like. But it seems like both of you are really agreeing on that a tattoo shop needs to feel like people actually work there, and it hasn't been designed, quote unquote, that it has evolved almost like the artist has over time. That
Yes.
you might have guessed it in some shop, and you picked something up in that city and you brought it back to your own shop, and it's just a collection of your experience as an artist.
Completely. Yeah, I'd like to add something. It's as being passionate about tattooing, when I go to another tattoo studio, I'm searching for this connection. So whenever I when I come in a tattoo shop, and you can feel that there has been thought and process into decorating the place, but also that it is personal. It's owned by someone who's involved into this whole life. It's something that you can see compared to a generic shop that is unpersonal, that's been just like decided all at once by some kind of random design purpose, but then you just static in there. So sometimes a decoration of the shop can be a little bit overwhelming, but it's also something I really love about a space, about tattooing, when it's like tons of stuff and souvenirs and prints signed by other artists, stuff like that.
That sounds fantastic. And we have to go to Peter Opinions Madsen. Peter, what have you got to say?
Oh God, I've been given a label. Thank you very much, Thomas. I do have opinions on so many things. As the lads say, the dynamic growth of a studio, that you can see that this is not just something out of Pinterest or a catalogue. Because I've walked into tattoo studios that they look like they have been shopped out of a catalogue. And it is weird and unpleasant. I love to go into a space where you can see history dripping off the walls. I particularly like when I can see that each artist that works there has been given the right to influence their own workspace. That itself also gives me an impression if I would want to be tattooed by those artists, because if they don't decorate their own space, if they don't feel that they are inhabiting their space properly, then it sort of puts me off, because I prefer to be tattooed by someone who feel like they are at home, where they are going to be stabbing me with needles. So yeah, that is really my only pickiness. I do love walking into tattoo studios that are unique and thought out differently. But I like an adventure. I'm also socially anxious, so when walking into a space that's completely different, it can freak the fuck out of me. But it is an adventure in front of you. It's hard to not appreciate. And I've been to studios where it's just so different than what I've ever walked into. I walked into a tattoo studio in Germany once, and everything was like a 1920s lounge, heavy velvet furniture and stuff like that, with plants everywhere. It's fucking amazing. I loved it. Stuff like that, so that it becomes an experience that you remember the space you were tattooed in. It's not just the tattoo you're carrying. It becomes a whole thing. That is something I really appreciate.
And one thing that I would also like to add, that, funny enough, I was talking to my partner about it, and she said a big red flag for her if she goes into a studio that has like more than like 4 or 5 artists is if it's only men. She'll be like, no, not getting tattooed in there, just because obviously tattooing has had a reputation of a bit of a man's club as well. But going back to kind of the business aspect of it, obviously COVID fundamentally kind of changed the tattoo industry where, different countries had different regulations. It might have been easier for some people, harder for some people. How has the post-COVID period and your experience during COVID changed how you run your business?
Allow me to start off with that one, because holy shit. So when COVID happened, I was completely screwed because I only had international clients. I had recently moved to England, and I already worked on clients from all over the world when that happened. And I'd never really focused much on Britain as a base of clientele. So I didn't, all of a sudden all the airports were closed, so I had no canvases. And we started like trying to put feelers out and see if we could get to tattoo locals, and then even that was shut down. So my assistant Haywood and I were just, twiddling our thumbs and realizing that we were going to go bankrupt very, very quickly. Also because we were new in the country, there was no government support for us, dirty immigrants that we are. So, so we had to rethink, and we ended up rethinking by doing a Kickstarter where we basically started to make a book. And since then, that has gone from I'll make a book, which turned into make a book and T-shirts and merchandise, and we now have a very, very active web shop that has like great revenue and it functions. But I have become a publicist because of COVID, which is really weird. Post-COVID, it was very easy to get back on track for me because my clientele were just waiting, which is a luxury of being highly specialized. You have a waiting list, and people just want to get decorated. And it's one of the beautiful things about humans that are passionate about art. They fucking can't wait to get stabbed by needles next time. So getting back on the horse was easy enough. It has changed my life. I'm very busy trying to both tattoo and make books, but it's all for the better. And it's a good retirement plan. So fuck it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, for me too, COVID changed a lot of things. First of all, Switzerland wasn't too hard on lockdowns and stuff like that, but we had to close for, I think it was 5 weeks the first time, and in about 20 years I haven't stopped tattooing for so long ever. So I was very nervous about it. But that was actually the occasion for me to open my eyes and realize that it's an opportunity to paint more, to be more productive about doing all the things I don't have the time to do when I'm drawing for clients and all of that. So since COVID happened, now I'm a lot more focused on giving a good experience to all of my customers, one after the other, and trying to save more time to be artistically productive, paint more, and try to improve myself. So it's also after COVID, I started to paint a lot more on the walls and display my flash. So now, since my shop was open in 2006 and I never moved since I opened, I'm one of the old timers in town. And as soon as COVID lockdown stopped, I was booked, and I've been working pretty busily since. And I don't know if you say busily in English, or does that?
It works.
It works. All right. So I'm trying to say that it's been now I'm trying to find a better balance between art and artistic painting and stuff like that, and tattooing and taking care of clients. Yeah, roughly that's what I was trying to say.
All right. So for me, I just took over the shop 3 months before COVID exploded. So I had pretty much no experience running a shop, let alone running it during a pandemic. And Spain was one of those extremely restrictive countries. And I think the first time we were locked up was about 3 months. So that was a bit of a shock, let's say. And yeah, personally, on those months, I took time to paint, and I sold merchandise and artwork, and I did okay personally. But the shop was a struggle because we had just taken over. Luckily, we managed to rent out the space for a filming with Netflix, and they paid loads of money for this, so that managed to pay all the bills. And
Can you say what it was?
Oh yes, God, it's a Spanish remake of a French film, and the Spanish name is called Centauro, like centurion in Spanish. And of course, it's based. It was about a guy and his girlfriend, and they sell drugs, and of course, the drugs are sold at a tattoo shop because that's what we really do. And they filmed the scenes of the drug exchange and kind of stuff in a tattoo shop. In this case, it was here at our shop, the meat shop. I mean, that's what we really do, isn't it? That's what film things are what we do. And that was good because it gave us
Both businesses
money.
involve a heavy amount of cash flow. So
Yes. I mean, I guess it's in the old days it might have been. Anyway, that they paid very well, so we could pay rent. Being a big shop, rent is very expensive here. And the funny thing is that when they allowed us back on the outside of our houses and walk around, and there was a boom. Everybody wanted to get tattooed for some reason. I think people were either locked up and had too much time to think about it, or the world's going to finish. I'm going to get that stupid tattoo I always wanted, or who cares about anything anymore? I'm just going to do it. So there was a kind of a crazy amount of work. We weren't expecting it.
It's true. After COVID, people were running in the shop, and they're like, I don't want to wait anymore. Let's go. Let's do this. Plus, I mean, there wasn't that many distractions because of the lockdowns, So they all kind of rushed in. It was same for me too. How was it for you, Peter? Did you had only customers waiting abroad?
There was definitely an influx. We've also managed in the meantime to grow our English clientele. But what I've noticed is that COVID has caused a lot more people to want to get their hands, necks, and faces tattooed. It's this whole like, well, fuck it, everything is stupid anyways mentality. Like people have now experienced being cooped up in their apartments, so they just don't. There's a lot of people that just don't give a shit. I've done so many more headpieces within the last year and a half than I have in my entire 12-year career. It's surreal. And I think it has something to do with that mentality that people got from experiencing a world pandemic. Like, oh my God, it might all end, so why the fuck should I care? And I get it. I applaud that mentality. Fuck it. We all have to conform under all of these social stigma rules. Just do what the fuck you want. As long as you get good tattoos on your face, I'm happy. I don't want to have to cover up bad facial tattoos.
And that seems like the most important thing.
Do you think it's actually going to become a label? Like, this is my post-COVID tattoo. Like, this is my post-COVID face tattoo.
Maybe not post-COVID face tattoo, but I've met a lot of people who have that whole like, yeah, I got this tattoo right after COVID. You guys must have done tattoos that basically happened, as Benny said, like right after COVID, people came rushing to the shop. Those people would go out into the world, and when they hang out with their friends and they're like, what's that tattoo? It's like, oh, it's my post-COVID thing. I was like, it's a cheese sandwich because I lived off cheese sandwiches for 3 months. COVID was hard, man.
Exactly. In Spain, we had a crisis with the toilet paper. People were buying toilet paper because they were said it was going to run out in the supermarkets. So one of the very popular tattoos that we did just the minute we opened was toilet paper rolls, and like toilet paper roll, I survived COVID and all this kind of stuff. So yes, that was a common one.
It all comes back to toilet rolls. But
exactly.
It's really funny because post-COVID, when I was trying to get tattooed, I found it was, when I was still living in Dublin, it was nigh on impossible to actually get an appointment because every artist had like 6 months, 9 months worth of backed up appointments and only a certain amount for newer clients. Have you found that now that things have kind of leveled off, are you busier than you were before COVID, or are things kind of the same?
things right now for me, because I'm in England and our government has fucked everything over so violently, that I can see a lull in especially British clients. And I think globally, this whole war between Russia and Ukraine and economical issues, it's slowing a little bit down. But I mainly do like full sleeves and bodysuits and shit like that. So I think people are being a little bit careful with how they spend massive amounts of money. But when I say it has slowed down, that means that my waiting list has gone from 200 people down to like 150. So it's not like I have an issue with this, but I can see on our statistics that there's definitely something happening. I don't think it has anything to do with COVID. I do think that COVID boosted the tattoo business, also because people were bored and probably watched too much Ink Masters and shit like that. It always does weird things to people.
If you watch the Ink Master, the newest season, you can listen back to me and Matt's reaction and watch along that we did on this podcast.
One of the things I noticed this COVID, I mean, right now work is going, it's well, it's busy, as busy or busier than before COVID. But I've noticed that a lot of people have been locked up in their houses or in their country for 2 years now, maybe 3, I don't know at this point. And they couldn't have any holidays. Some people go on holidays twice a year. They've been locked up at home, no restaurants, no spending. So people who were lucky enough to have the same salary and just accumulating a certain amount of wealth, and now that, air travel and everything is back to normal, let's say, they're splashing out, and instead of getting that 1 tattoo a year, they're going to get 3 because they've been 3 years locked up without getting a tattoo. So in the past year, let's say, where things have been more normalized, it's been very, very busy. And I've noticed people traveling to get tattooed and getting tattoos that they always wanted to do because they've had this extra income accumulated during the period.
I think it's worth mentioning that the shop that Benny owns, Meat Shop Tattoo, is Dead Center, Barcelona, which is one of the most insanely busy tourist cities in the world. And when I had the studio, I would guesstimate that half of the clients that were there were tourists, at least half. Like, it was not a large quantity of locals. So I imagine that it must have fanned the fires heavily for you.
It still is. It still is tourist, souvenir tattoo, as I like to call it. There's also the more specialist customer who still comes from abroad but gets their like nicer, more researched piece. And then each tattoo has their own customers, but I'd say 50% is easily a true walk-in tourist souvenir tattoo.
For me, it stays it's actually since COVID happened, I feel like I have more customers than I used to. Also because Geneva is a very international city. There's a lot of people working here, but who come from abroad, and they've had like some kind of contract to work for a couple of years in Geneva, for example. So I meet a lot of people who are here for a limited amount of time. But also the fact that we couldn't travel for a while made the local clientele look more into what do we have here? What's available in my hometown? So somehow I got kind of discovered a little bit more. I have that feeling that it's been increasing. And also I have a lot of customers who are people who come back. They go for one arm, and as we're tattooing one full sleeve, they ask for the second one, and so on and so forth. And that's also what I really want to build with my clients. So there was definitely a change after lockdown, because bars and restaurants were still closed, and so people had that ton of money that we're actually spending on other things before, and all of a sudden there's tattoo money that's available. And I could actually see a point when the bars opened, all of a sudden there was a percentage of clients who were just it's getting more difficult now financially, But at the same time, I would maybe consider some of those clients a little bit more impulsive, and it's all right. And there's also the customers who have been planning their tattoo carefully for months, and they are looking for the right artist, and then they want to start the project when there's not too much sun, when they're available to do several sessions, and they're serious about their requests. So I try to please everyone, but I can definitely see that there's been a more steady demand since COVID for me.
Hey, are you enjoying the show? If you really like Beneath the Skin and you want to help support us, you can do so on Patreon. For little as £5 a month, you can help make this show possible, help us buy research materials. So if you like the show and you want to support us, consider kicking us a few quid a month. And you'll get everything from bonus episodes to Q&As, and you can even vote on what tattoo I'll get when we reach a certain subscriber count. Matt, have you got anything to say?
You should really definitely fund the Patreon, because tattoo history is massive, right? Deep, wide, complicated. We're covering some big hit topics on the main feed, but on the Patreon subscriber-only feed, we'll be getting into some really more interesting, niche, deep topics you don't want to miss out on. And honestly, the chance to kind of decide what Thomas gets on his body is probably just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Subscribe, chuck us a few quid. Don't miss out on the chance to ruin Thomas's body forever.
Everyone knows that tattoo aftercare is one of the most important steps in getting a new tattoo. We all want our fresh new tattoos to heal as easily and hassle-free as possible so we can show them off to the world.
That's why Saniderm's here to help. Driven by science and innovation, Saniderm products have been thoroughly tested and used by doctors and tattoo artists alike for over 10 years.
Saniderm brings cutting-edge technology to make your tattoo healing process a breeze. No more messing around with cleaning and plastic every few hours with Saniderm's amazing range of aftercare products. I personally have used Saniderm to heal my tattoos in the past, and they made what used to be a daily process of setting reminders on my phone to clean and rewrap my tattoo into a one-step process.
Their medical-grade products include aftercare balms, soaps, and my favourite, their second skin aftercare bandages. Saniderm's tattoo bandages are designed to be waterproof, breathable, and keep your new tattoo protected from whatever the elements can throw at it, so you can get on with your day, worry-free, and confident your new tattoo will look vibrant and will heal faster.
Plus, their products are all natural and ethically sourced, so you can take comfort in knowing that you're healing your tattoos with nature's finest ingredients.
So next time you're in an artist's chair, why not try Saniderm, healing your tattoos the modern way so you can get on with your day.
Check out the link in the description of this episode for discounts on a range of Saniderm products or for more information. And like, one thing I think after COVID, or maybe before COVID, depending on your opinion, that I'm sure tattoo artists love talking about is how to market yourself. And obviously we have the master of social media, Peter Madsen, with us, and that's obviously a big part of how you market yourselves as a tattooist at the moment. But I want to talk about, you know, all the other stuff that you do as well, and what you think works, what you think doesn't work. Like I myself, we're recording this on the 10th of January. In 3 days' time, I'm going to get two Friday the 13th tattoos. Something like that is obviously a big tradition in the industry. But, you know, what are you doing now that you mightn't have considered maybe a couple of years ago? Or what are you seeing that works in terms of like bringing in new clients versus what doesn't work?
Wow. For me, thank you for the weird title of being the uncrowned king of social media. I am an idiot at social media. I'm not very good at it, but my team is. I've chosen to invest in having people around me that are good at this stuff. And over all the different social media bases that we are on, we are right below 1 million followers, doing all sorts of things about Nordic history and Nordic tattooing. And that's one of the big things that I started focusing on. Is it's not just tattoos, it's also the history, not of Nordic tattoos, but of Vikings and Celts and Picts and so on, that I started picking up on. And I use this to promote other tattoo artists, because my side project, this webshop thing, took off and became, you know, a viable retirement plan. And as I started to think about that, then I also started to think about, what happens when I stop tattooing? Or what happens to all these people that do write me and ask for me to tattoo them from all over the world, and I don't have time to tattoo them, or I don't want to tattoo them because the project is not just my thing. I have nowhere to send these people. So we started harvesting information on tattoo artists from all over the world to try and build up this, basically a catalog. We're releasing it in about a month, so that people all over the world have access to this. I became very altruistic because of COVID, really, because I realized that I got through COVID as an artist because I had a big social media base already back then. It's much bigger now, but back then I had enough to make a Kickstarter and survive. But a lot of artists, they didn't. They were fucked. And I've been given so much by the tattoo community, the world of tattooing. I've given much, but I've been given much, much more than I've had a chance to give back. So I just decided that, fuck it, I need to be altruistic. There's karma. I fervently believe in karma. So start giving back. So that's a weird direction that things have taken from me. I've even now forgotten the actual source of your question. I'm just rambling. So please stop me.
What do you post on social media, Peter, that works? What brings in clients? All everything you just said.
Okay, if I were to recommend something, it's actually, I think something we should catch in this episode of your podcast is a bit of advice to other tattoo artists, because I know that there's others out there listening. I would always recommend people to specialize and take their specialization and make it unique. Our two wonderful other tattoo artist guests, Benny and Sylvain, I have told them both in the time that I've known them, take what you do and hyper specialize, up the scale, change something, make it yours, own it. Because if you're just generic, you can be as good as it fucking gets, but if what you do and what you put out there is generic, there will be no traction. You need to create something that is yours. And when you start doing that, there's so much more joy in it for you as an artist to create your own. It becomes something that you actually feel strongly about. And that in itself, the fact that you're passionate about what you do, that will fuel your career. Because when you then talk about it on social media, when you make videos of your tattoos, you will take that extra bit of time to take good photos, make good videos, talk about it, write about it. There will be more to it. And all of these things, they're all small things, but it all adds up in the end. And that will help fuel your social media. Besides from that, just remember, social media is a constantly changing monster. Fucking Instagram changes their algorithms every 5 minutes. Read up on it. Learn what the hell is going on. Learn what format you need to use for your photos and videos. Learn what music you need to put on TikTok and stuff like that. It's all a nightmare, but it's all necessary because we are, sadly, as artists, quite dependent on social media. So that is as firm as a pile of advice that I can regurgitate in a short moment.
Yeah, I'd like to have a different aspect of sort of an answer to that. The way I see it is, if I am productive enough, if I paint enough, if I'm passionate about what I do, at one point or a certain level, all you need is one client who you meet, who gets what drives you, and then he can share this experience to the world. So maybe, social media, as Peter says, it's always changing. But if you're passionate about what you do, and you're productive and you put the work down, then everything comes from there. You have to be 100% into that. I don't spend or I don't hire people for doing the social media communication for now or yet or anyways, but I'm not sure it's necessary, because I know tattoo artists who are giants, who work so well, who are super talented artists, and they don't even have a phone number that you can reach them at the shop. They have a private phone and not even a website, not even Instagram, and they're just legend. And you can see the quality of their work on someone who's walking by, and you get super passionate about what's that tattoo, and it's one person after another. So the human aspect of tattooing is still central. I think, social media, it's important. You can get loads of communication that way, but it's also something real. it's also something that you can see, that you can feel on someone. If you see the tattoos of Peter, for example, they're beautiful, and you can spot them from a mile away. And if it's a good tattoo done by him, or Philip Le, or any other great artist out there, you can spot who did that, and you can be passionate about it the same way.
Well, yeah, I agree with what Peter and Sylvain said, but I think that unless you're like Philippe Liu or something like that, you can be a great artist, you can be amazing at what you do, extremely talented tattooer, but you have to know how to sell your products. Very few people are lucky enough to not have to go through this hole of having to sell it online or do TikToks or Reels or whatever you have to do now. So yeah, I agree. You have to do it. I think it's mandatory nowadays for everyone, really, except a few lucky people. But on what Sylvain was saying about the human aspect of it, it still is, and one-on-one doing the tattoo, and there's something that I encounter a lot with tattooers that I've worked with, that I have, or I'm working with. Some people lack this human aspect. You got to treat your customer with respect. You got to be on time, showered, maybe have a drawing for them, not show up drunk, because you can be great, you can be the best, you can pay a lot to do marketing, but if you can't show up with a design, there's that human aspect is very, very important. And one weird thing that I did, or we kind of did at the shop to attract more customers, which was kind of the initial question, we raised the prices. That kind of worked. I was terrified. I could not believe that it worked, but it did. So yeah, go take the price a bit higher, respect your work, and it genuinely works.
It's funny because when I listen to what you said, it makes me think about, billboards, in the sense that a billboard might get you a customer, and the more billboards you have might get you more customers. But if the billboard's not good in and of itself, no one's going to notice it, and no one's going to want to buy the product, in the same way that your tattoos need to be good first and foremost for people to want to get them, but it helps get the message out there. But the base of it is still the good tattoo. And I know myself that, I have gotten tattoos off an artist initially because I saw them on Instagram. I really liked their stuff and I went. But what kept me coming back was the experience of the shop, of being with the artist, of the actual tattoo, that has kept me coming back. And some of my friends have gone to the same artist because they've seen my tattoo and they're like, oh, that's really good. Then looked at the guys, Instagram, and think, oh, I kind of like what they do. And then that process begins of the consultation of like, here's my idea. Is this something you can do? Let's work together. And I think it kind of encapsulates everything we've talked about in this episode, of from curating the atmosphere of the shop to be something that feels lived in and has grown with the artist, to the artist is not just the pictures on Instagram. It's so much more. It's, the experience of going to them and working with them. And I know, Peter and Sylvain, you have quite long processes of consultation with the client and working with them to bring the idea to life. It's sort of like building a relationship with the artist in a way. You are carrying their art on your skin for the rest of your life. And I do think in some ways, I agree with Benny and Sylvain that it is important, but I feel like people are staring at the wrong target. They're trying to figure out, okay, how do I game the system to get more followers, to get more eyes on my stuff, rather than doing what Peter has done in a smart way and think, well, how can I be different, rather than how can I be better than everyone else?
Being better than anyone else is not really important. You got to be best at being yourself. I've been asked before, do you think that you're the best Nordic tattoo artist out there? And I don't. I think I'm the best at being me. But that's fucking easy. I'm the best at doing very specifically what I do, what I've developed. And that's, as long as I focus on that and I don't feel like I'm trying to compete with everyone else, then I have space to grow. But I also fervently believe that you are, as kind of like Benny hinted at, you're only ever as good as the last tattoo you did. Because the tattoos that walk out of your shop, they are your brand. And if you start fucking up because you walk in hungover or didn't bring a drawing for your client or came in late and you had to do a rush job, what leaves your studio is half-assed, And that has a much heavier echo than a good tattoo.
Yeah, be yourself, and also give 100%, because your customers deserve that. Whenever I do a sleeve or a back piece or even a small tattoo, it might be the last time I see that person. Maybe they're not going to come back again because they're going to move out, or for any kind of reason, I'm not going to tattoo them again, or I need my work to be standing up for itself, and I need my body and my brain to be as sharp as I can to do the work and do it the best way I can. Because as you said, Peter, it's any tattoo you do is a signature.
Yeah, and the clients are super dependent on us, because most people that get tattooed, and honestly, most of them are not artists. They don't know how to get the optimal result. That is on us. So being at our best is always bloody important. Can I ask a question of you, Benny, by the way, now that we're talking social media and stuff like that? Back when I was the ruler of the insane kingdom that is Meat Shop Tattoo, I was always on your backs about social media, about taking pictures, about posting. Do you still do that? Because you have more tattoo artists now than the studio had when I had it, which is insane, because back when I had it, it was already a fucking, oh God, it was so big and so like chaotic. And trying to help and harness all that energy was really tough. But that was one of my consistent things that I put towards all the artists. Do social media, take photos and get it out there. Do you still do that?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of using this free tool that exposes us everywhere. So I'm always in favor of uploading my drawings, my designs, my tattoos, even the ones that I like less, the ones I like most. I'm happy with using it. And in the shop there, most of us are okay. We help each other out. We try and give feedback to each other which things work better than others. But there is a portion of tattooers who believe that this is just some horrible thing that they have to do, and they are not interested at all in uploading any content. They find it like a chore. And they expect people to discover or to like their artwork magically. And I will never understand why people don't want to use this tool, which is it's free. You don't even have to pay for it. You don't even have to have good filming abilities or photography abilities. You can do it with the same iPhone, everything. So yeah, I try to encourage people, but I don't want to be that person who is constantly molesting people into do this. We're all adults in the tattoo world, so I can always advise, but I won't force anyone.
Benny, I have a suggestion, because I found some kind of a hack. Personally, I think social media is kind of a trap for me, because I end up caught up in it. If I stare at my phone for hours, my brain is empty afterwards, and I tend to spend a lot more time on it than actually working for it, if you know what I mean. But the escape that I found, when I don't want to post everything I tattoo, because I got already so many pictures and I feel like this is a lot of time invested in it. So I'd rather post glimpses of my work, maybe try to find an interesting angle or pictures that give a part of an idea. And then customers who can see your Instagram page, instead of seeing a display of tattoos all ready to choose from as if it was like a flashes on the wall, instead of that, they have just glimpses of close-ups or an interesting lighting, and the quality of the pictures can do a lot for you. I was thinking about that, because if you have that approach, it's not necessary to post every day. And for those who find Instagram a hassle, maybe it's a way out, or maybe I'm doing it wrong and everything is out. But for me, I kind of lost interest of the promotion on Instagram, because it's it's changing all the time. I don't know if it's working. Half of the people on Instagram are just robots, and and nothing feels real in that thing anymore.
But that is the thing, Sylvain. Like Instagram and similar, it is made to be traps that makes us addicted to it. And what you say about like you don't feel like you have to post every day, that is true because you are a well-established artist. You are well-established in your area. You have clientele that your studio and your career functions very much on word of mouth because you've tattooed for longer than social media has been around to fuck with our lives.
Oh,
but
that's
for example,
right.
when you own when you own a tattoo studio like Meat Shop, where there's so many artists, and I assume that there's still like younger artists that come into Meat Shop, they get a job, they start doing all the walk-ins and stuff like that. That was how we did it when I was there. They need support. They need to be put out there. But that also means there needs to be consistency because the algorithms of the internet gods are demanding. They want sacrifices. You have to bloody hell post all the fucking time. You have to put things in your stories for them to be seen. There's these programmed mechanisms, and they're nightmarish. And to make it worse, Instagram doesn't tell you these things. You have to guess. You have to learn from other social media influencers. How do I post? What's the best time? There is outsourced programs that can read when is the optimal time for you to post your work. When is your audience most active? When will you get most likes? Because if you post a photo and it has a lot of likes, then it is spread out by Instagram to more people automatically. So it's this ridiculous trap. And when you don't do it, nothing much happens. Let me give you an example. My own Instagram, northernblack.oak, didn't really grow more than 100 to 200 followers a month because it was just me running it. All of our other accounts were run by Haywood, my social media guru, and his team. But then we started focusing on mine because we wanted to do something with it. I forget what. It's not important. It has now grown 12,000 followers in a month instead of 200. 12,000. From 200 to 12,000 because we obeyed the rules of the internet. Now, 12,000 followers might not be money in the bank to most people, but to me, it's a tool that I can then utilize. I can reach out to these people and sell my books, and I can reach out to these people and show them tattoo artists from all over the world that does Nordic tattoos, meaning that more people will get good Nordic tattoos and I have to repair less shitty tattoos, which is wonderful for me. I say arrogantly. But there's a very, very big gap to bridge between Philippe Bleu and his career being God and where I am. I know that I'm well established within my field, but I am quite dependent on social media in one format or another. And younger tattoo artists than me, I've been around for 12 years doing this, there are tattoo artists who's been here for 5 minutes. And they are very dependent on social media. And some of them get it, and they get it right, and they go through the roof in no time. They have an angle, they have the right pictures, they catch the train just at the right moment. And it's wonderful for them. But there are so many others that have to struggle because they don't have a chance to understand this weird labyrinth that social media is.
And something that I want to add on to that as well, Peter, is that they might grab that train, but that train also has stops as well. That unfortunately with social media, there is trends and there is cycles of what's cool and what's not cool, what people see on social media that gets shared, and some art that might align with some artists at a particular time, but unfortunately that trend might move on and then suddenly they mightn't be as popular on social media. But Sylvain, you were going to say something?
And you don't get a memo for it.
Yep.
Sylvain, you were saying?
Yeah. So I understand that my point of view is based on some, if you're a new tattooer, then obviously it's a lot different. But also, maybe if you get to the point where you have a certain base of customers, then you can just take care of those people, and then it kind of works for you. Then it really depends on how or where you want to go from there. Also, I guess, because from your point of view, having more and more and more people interested in following your work has an impact on your books and has an impact on a lot of other things. And it's a truly good tool. I mean, if you know how to use it, So I don't have an answer for everyone, but I realize that my perspective is kind of a different than yours somehow.
Yeah, but at the same time, like we talked about something a long time ago. I don't know if you remember. I think we were in Gruyere at the time chatting about careers. And I said, and I wished that I'd had an apprenticeship with someone like you. Because one, I would have liked to learn things in a sturdy way. Like, because I had to guess. Half of my career, at least, is guesswork. And I would have loved to have the shelter of someone that had an established career in an established grouping of people where I could spend 4 years learning my trade and finding clients within your commune of clients that would start getting tattooed by me, a more calm way to build up. Because my career has, from not day one, but from day 100, been like fifth gear, 90 miles an hour, and a hell of a lot of work. There's very little calm about my career. Luckily, there's not much calm inside my head, so that's okay. We get along, my career and me. But I would have loved to have an upbringing within the tattoo industry in a studio like yours, with a person like you, where I could have learned the ropes the right way. I'm jealous of those that get it, and I would never recommend anyone in the world to like do that whole like, oh, I went on Amazon or eBay and bought a tattoo kit and just started tattooing, and now I have to tattoo my friends, and they all want cheap tattoos, and I don't know how to clean up. I don't even know hygiene. I don't know what cross-contamination is. Fuck, don't ever fucking do that. Get a bloody apprenticeship if you ever get the chance.
That's actually a perfect segue into my next question. Our last two questions, we've talked so much about, to shop owners, to other tattooists. I want to ask, what's your advice? And you mentioned about the Amazon tattoo machines and everything. And I find that a lot of advice that comes from tattooists directed towards both apprentices and customers can come across a lot like they're speaking down to, customers, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And the same with apprentices that, don't do this, don't do that. What is some, positive, constructive advice you could give to customers to have a better experience as, getting tattooed or dealing with a tattooist, and potential apprentices who want to get into the industry?
Okay, two good pieces of advice for the clients out there. Trick number one, you consume on the internet, on your phone, on Instagram. You can look at a photo and you consume. And if the line work you see is shit, it's because the tattoo artist is probably shit. Stuff like that. You can actually see the quality of a tattoo on the internet. So the anxiety-inducing experience of walking into a tattoo shop where there might be a big old biker behind the counter, you don't have to go through that before you choose to contact them. You can check out their work first. And when you then do walk into the studio, if you get a bad vibe, walk out. Even if you put down a deposit, walk out. You don't want that shit connected to you. Just cut your losses and walk out and find someone that you want to get tattooed by, because you're going to be spending a lot of time in their company and they will be stabbing you with a needle 100 times a second. You want this to be a good experience. That is the best advice I can give to clients.
Yeah, I would add something also. It's mainly listen to your heart, look at the quality of the work. That's absolutely very important. And then if you see the work and genuinely are interested into what you see, if you like what you see, go meet the artist and then check out the vibe. If something speaks to you, if you feel comfortable with the person, that's a good idea. But also take your time, because nowadays there's so many tattooers out there. There's so many people who are actually not having enough work, and they'll be sometimes ready to do the tattoo they shouldn't be doing on you just because, well, you have money in your pocket. And maybe a tattoo on your forehead is not that much of a good idea, even if COVID just stopped recently. So if someone tells you no, sometimes it comes from a good place, and there's conversation that can start or whatever. But yeah, what I mean is take your time and check out the quality of the work and see how you feel about the art, because you're gonna live with it. Once it's done on you, it's there, it's staying. So I don't care if your friend just bought a machine and is tattooing half of the town in his bathtub. It's cool, but one day you'll be
It's
40.
not cool.
Well, it's not cool. But what
It's
do we know?
It's hepatitis in a bathtub, for fuck's sake.
I'm too old to know what's cool anymore. But I know it's gonna stay for long. You want to wear your stuff for life, so imagine yourself aging with whatever you choose. And well, that's also a big question about what motivates people to get tattooed. Because there's those trends that are very popular now, and as long as it makes you happy, it's what matters. But on the other hand, I'm driven into the idea that I'm trying to make the best work I can with what I know. I'm trying to do nice tattoos. That's just what I want to do. Some people don't care about that. Say they want it, rough and crude or whatever. But you got to find someone who feels the same way about what you want to get as you do, I guess.
Yeah, I'm okay with party tattoos and eBay machines and
Finally,
not so
someone
much with
said it. Finally, someone said it.
not so much about the hepatitis party. That I'm not in favor of that. But get a shitty tattoo machine, ruin all your friends' thighs. I'm down. I'm happy. I'm more than happy with this. Peter and Sylvan and myself, I do the Japanese in a way, and very elaborate, very traditional, very large pieces. And what these trend, as we call it, is the opposite. It's similar to music. You got symphonic rock, Pink Floyd, and then you got punk. Three guys who don't know how to play, basically. And that is just like the counter of what was happening. So the opposite of Philippe Liu is, a deck chair, badly tattooed with an eBay machine.
Auto Christ.
Also Christ or whatever.
Do you think they are opposite on the spectrum?
I think they are a reaction, just like punk could have been to symphonic rock or trap music is to music nowadays.
But punk music is a reaction to authority, but Philippe Liu is not authority. He's just Philippe Liu.
Maybe against the establishment of what music was at the time. It was heard on the radio, the establishment. Political, yes, but the establishment. And I think it's the same. Trap music, in a way, is kids at home who download a €5 app and make beats. It's the same as buying a €5 machine on eBay and tattooing your friends. I'm okay with it, as long as no hepatitis party.
I think my main issue is the risks that are involved in, unlearned tattooing. Very often I get to cover up bad tattoos, and it actually tends to fuel my creativity, so I have to come up with solutions how to cover old things, which I strangely enough appreciate. But I think you're right that buying a shitty machine and tattooing shitty things on your weird-ass friends, it has a hell of a lot to do with that whole, fuck it. Fuck them guys that has a tattoo shop and you have to pay loads of money for a tattoo. I can do this for cheap and free. Strangely enough, we do tend to encounter these people later in their lives when they've decided that now they would probably like something that fixes their shit. But yeah, I understand your sentiment. It's funny to hear from you, Benny, because you're a well-established artist. Also, you're probably the best walk-in tattoo artist I've ever encountered. And you're fucking good at dealing with people that you've never met before. So it's a little bit terrifying to hear that from your mouth.
I understand. I am more on the conservative spectrum. Tattoo should be properly done, and you shouldn't tattoo someone's hand unless they have many tattoos before, etc. But on the other side, I totally get it. I think these younger generation, let's call them, or these trend breakers or whatever, tattooers have their space and have the right to do these, in my point of view, very badly done tattoos.
Well, actually, to be honest, most of everyone, me included, we started getting a machine and starting tattooing. But over 20 years ago, there was no internet, not really, and nobody would tell you, nobody would tell you how to do it. So basically, you were considered cool if you knew someone who was tattooing. So it was just so different back then. And I mean, so we all started tattooing at one point, and it wasn't good, and then it got better. I'm not saying that new tattooers should never tattoo, but you got to be super careful about hygiene and everything, and also be aware that you're maybe fucking up the work that you could have later. Because let's say, okay, I don't have anything against backyard tattooers or whatever. You get your machine, you have your 30 friends, 50 friends that want to get a tattoo from you. You don't know shit about tattooing. You don't care about all the old good tattoo artists that are actually going to ask money for their work. So you're going to do a whole bunch of tattoos for free on 50 people. And you're going to do 50 shitty tattoos on people. And then, well, they might not want to come back to you because their experience was what it was. And then that's your portfolio. And that's what you're sticking with for the next, I don't know, how much time is it going to last, until you're going to wake up in the morning and be good at tattooing. You fucked over 50 tattoos, and those 50 tattoos are all there was. Or maybe, that's why I picture it. I tattoo every tattoo I do. I try to make the best I can, because maybe they're not going to come back. So preparation is key. I was thinking about that just before. My advice to anyone who wants to start tattooing: draw more. You can never draw too much. Draw more, Maybe you draw with an iPad, maybe you draw with paper. I don't care, as long as you are productive and work your ass off, because this is the preparation. Once you're sticking a needle into the body of someone, it's just not going to fall off, and you have one shot because it's permanent.
I would also say that, if you want to be a tattoo apprentice, bring your sketchbook. Fuck your finished drawings that you've polished for 30 hours. I don't care about them. I want to see your gritty, grubby sketchbooks that's full of weird ideas. I want to see your creative process, because it is so much more interesting for me to evaluate a person's future as an artist from their sketches than it is from something that they have precisely finickied with a specific pencil for a bazillion years. I don't get anything from that. Anyone can, in principle, do that. It is the process. It is your creative energy that I want to see. So yeah, keep drawing. It's bloody important.
I think that is a perfectly natural point to end this. I'm sure all three of you could talk for hours and hours on any question I could put to you.
I have to stop you, Thomas, because I realized from what has since been said since the beginning, I need to redact something I said. When I said, just go out and get your faces tattooed and shit, it's not serious sound advice. It's more, just don't come back at me with an email going, but you said on a podcast. It is true. I did say that, but I didn't mean it that way. Consider what the fuck you're going to have done. If you seriously want to get a head tattoo done, choose a good artist, choose the right design, and so on. The creative process is important. Find someone that knows their shit. Your face is on display every day. Make some sound choices. Just before I get caught up in a whirlwind of shit. Thank you. Sorry, Thomas, you may continue.
Peter's going to get cancelled for telling people to get their face tattooed. But I want to thank all of you gentlemen for coming on the show. It's been a really fascinating conversation, not just as from my perspective as a customer, but I'm sure for each of you as a shop owner, and from all of the tattooists, the shop owners, the people who dream of owning their own shop who are listening at home, the apprentices with their grubby sketchbooks. Thank you to all three of you. Where can people find you? You've all mentioned your studios. How can people contact you, book you? How long is your waiting list? Let us all know. Peter's going to be like, you have to wait 5 years to get a tattoo off me.
Yeah, 6 months. 6 to 8 months is how far out I want to book, because my life constantly changes and there might be another bout of pandemic. So I don't want to book too far out anymore. So yeah, 6 to 8 months. Anything Northern Black, northernblack.oak, northernblack.com, stuff like that. Northernblack.shop. Northern Black. You can find me. just not on Twitter, because fuck Elon Musk.
Yeah, I'm not that booked in advance. Usually between 1 and 2 months in the future, I can probably tattoo you. And yeah, you can find me at benny.tattooer, and the shop is Meat Shop Tattoo. On Instagram, I don't really have TikTok or any other thing. I focus only on Instagram.
Yeah, so you can get tattooed by me. My waiting list is usually around, nowadays it's usually between 2 or 3 months. If you're only available on Saturdays, it can be a little bit longer than that. But yeah, you can email me on it's sylvantattoo at me.com, or you can check out my website where you have more information. That's www.tattooadink.com. So TATTOOADDINK.
It'll be in the description.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is how old school you are. You still say www and assume that is needed information.
It's horrible. I feel just so outside of this world. When I talk to you guys, well, you said something so nice, Peter. Well, I'm learning now. I'm still learning every day, and I feel like you guys are so on point on social media and very efficient at what you do and that sort of communication. And I'm just, winging it. I can't really do everything and handle everything as well as you do. But I'm very I'm very admirative to your work, guys.
We're still just winging it. I have 7 people working for me. We're all just still winging it. That's it.
And if you enjoy listening to people winging it, you can listen to more of this podcast on all good streaming platforms. It's Beneath the Skin. If you have heard it through any of my guests' Instagrams, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Beneath Skin Pod. I think Instagram is Beneath the Skin Pod. If you like this episode and want to hear episodes like this early or bonus episodes, you can find us on Patreon for as little as £5 a month. You can get 2 extra episodes per month, plus all the other episodes early and some extra goodies. If you subscribe at the £15 tier, you can get a signed copy of Matt's book, Painted People, A History of Tattooing in 21 People. I always get the title wrong. I probably got it wrong there. You can get that signed and sent directly to you if you subscribe for as little as 1 month at the £15 tier. Thank you very much from me. Bye.